Hey everyone, just wanted to let y'all know that my physical copy of my graphic novel is now available to purchase on Amazon. There's also the ebook form, but it's finally done. I'm excited. Finally got the physical copy ready to go. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave the links down in the descriptions, alright? Other than that, I hope you enjoy the video. Bye.
Everyone, and welcome back to Wicked Art. It's Wicked here, and today we're going to talk about part two. I know this is many months later, but I had a request for somebody to show me how to do the drawing with stick figures, but with a reference. So consider this part two to that. So we're going to discuss how to use a reference and still draw with stick figures to help set up your pose, and then you can go in there and add more detail and muscle later. So we're just going to focus on practicing the poses, okay? So what I'm going to do here in Photoshop, you can do on paper, okay? It doesn't have to be, um, it doesn't have to be on the computer. It's the same principle applies on paper, okay? So we're going to use three references and break those down and do those the exact same way. So I'm going to take this first reference and we are going to make it just a little bit bigger just so that you guys can see it better. And of course, I will zoom in some as well too. So the first thing you want to do when you're using a reference is understand, do not ever let anybody tell you you are not allowed to use references when you draw, that you have to draw from your head. That is a myth. There are plenty of professional artists who use references. Now, does that mean you can copy the reference 100% and claim it as your own? No. But as far as practicing goes, or just getting a pose for a character you've created, you can use that. Nobody's gonna go out and belittle, oh, you took a picture of, this sport chick thing and use that. Who cares? As long as it's your character at the end of the day. But I digress. Okay. So first thing we're going to talk about is I'm just going to create a new layer and put in reference for us to use from. Let's break down the body type. So I'm going to use red just so that we can see it better. So let's go in here and look at the different things, right? So when we're drawing with, in our drawing with stick figures videos, we kind of did the same kind of deal where we just kind of broke the body down. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to build up, different sections of the body. So we can start here with the shoulders, right? It doesn't really matter, but you just put a general circle in there for that. You come down to about where the elbow is, right? So the bicep is actually shorter than the forearm itself. And then you can see that runs down into the hand. And then we can just make our little hand shape right in here. Okay. And then we have our chest, right? So if you remember with the stick figure drawing, we built out at least the minimal shape of the chest. And we can run that back. And we have a little bit of the neck here. And then we have our head that comes in. All right, we have our shoulder back here. We run our bicep right to the elbow. And then again, we run our hand over the top of the head. Then we come down here, we have our hips, right? So you can see I kind of put that line in there just so it kind of gives us a 3D shape. We're going to do the same thing with the hip here. We're going to draw that underwear shape that we talked about in that first video. And we can put that line in there as well too, just to kind of help us give that sense of a 3D shape. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing here. So actually, we should actually have this probably run a little bit further back. Okay, and we're just going to use this as a reference. So we have our thigh muscle comes out and meets the kneecap, and then that comes back and we get to our foot. All right, and we have the same thing. Our thigh runs down to our kneecap, that runs down into our foot. Okay, so you can see that's how the body breaks down, right? So we have a nice simple image of breaking the body down. So we want to do the same exact thing. These are the shapes that you need to picture in your head when you're looking at the character, right? So then when you go, we're going to turn that off. When you go in to draw, you're going to do the exact same thing. Okay, so like I can start up here with my shoulder, and we just put a circle in. Again, you can sketch it out however on your paper. I'm going to run the bicep down. Remember, not quite as long. Right to the elbow. Then we run that down to the hand. Okay, so now we have our hand and our arm, and you can start judging things and changing things based off of how they should look. So remember, the forearm should actually be a little longer than the bicep, so we're going to stretch that out more. Alright, so now we have that same deal that we're going to do. We're going to kind of run across. Sorry. Remember, that's the angle is what we're trying to get. You're trying to picture it in your head. And this just helps you set up, again, your image for what it is that you're trying to do in the character that you're trying to draw. Again, I can run that up. And then we have our neck right here, which comes in right with the head. And we can draw a little line for the face. Again, we have our shoulder. We run out our bicep to the elbow. And then the forearm stretches back to the face with the hand covering the head. Okay, so now we have our hip that we're going to do right here with our little underwear shape. And then we have our thigh, so we're going to run that out. And remember, it's foreshortened, it's facing towards us, so we don't want to go like too far. And we get our kneecap there, and then we run back to our foot. Okay, and then we have our other thigh that runs down this way. Now, because of the way he's jumping, it's kind of going to be stretched and hyperextended. So we run that down into our foot and set that up. So if we look at the picture, we can notice some differences, right? So there's way more of a stretch here, and this is why you sketch, so that you can just erase on your paper. But we just stretch that back, and that's sitting high enough. So everything else looks pretty good. And we just take that down. So if I turn that off and turn my reference back on, you can see we got pretty close. We have some differences here in the length of the body, right? But at the end of the day, you use the reference to get what it is that you want. Now, like we did in the other videos, now we start building out the connective tissue, right? So we have our biceps come out and connect. We get a basic standard forearm shape. We run our neck down to the shoulder like that. Now we already have our body built up, but what we can do is kind of run the back side of the back this way and kind of put more of a bend in it like that. And again, we just continue to connect the tissue. Of the arms and our forearms. Again, this will just help you with your posing and the start of the character. See, everybody wants to jump right in and go ahead, and we're just going to draw on the thigh shape here, but everybody wants to go ahead and start right in and be drawing Goku and everything. If you're not willing to put in the work and the practice to start from somewhere, then you are never going to get the complete understanding of anatomy down. So please understand that, yes, can you sit there and draw pictures of Goku or pictures of Sonic the Hedgehog or whoever your character of choice is? Can you draw those and get better at drawing that one particular thing? Yes, you can. But to have a complete understanding of anatomy and actually be able to, let's say, work and get hired by somebody who wants you to draw in their style and be able to understand how the muscles work and everything else, this is your starting pose. Okay? So, this is what we're doing to get to this point. By using a reference, it can help you understand how the body tweaks and moves using the skeletal structure to help set everything up, right? And then you can do little things, that aren't necessarily needed. Like you could come in here and add, like tiny little reference to, chest things and a body if you want to. That's not what's important right now. This is what you're practicing. Then you go in and you start adding other things, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to turn that reference off. Okay, I'm going to come back to this reference layer here. And let's take these two things. Let's shrink them down. And I'm just going to place them down here for now, because that is our first reference that we're doing. All right. So next thing is we're going to do reference 2. Again, we're going to create it a little bit bigger so that we can see it. I'll move that over here. And let's go ahead and let's break down the body again. All right. So this time it's kind of the same thing. We got a huge jumping position like he's coming in to punch somebody. So again, you can start wherever you want using references. A head's a good place to start at, but at the same time, it's really honestly up to you. Okay. Again, we're going to bring in our shoulders, run our biceps down to the elbow region, from the forearm down to the hand. Okay. Again, this is just our reference that we're trying to aim to achieve here. Again, if we look at the neck, we can barely see the shoulder. We have no forearm really whatsoever, so we just have this tiny bit that comes out here into a fist. All right. Same thing here. We need to establish our underwear shape, and the thigh comes out to the knee, and that starts to fade down into the foot. So you can see I'm kind of drawing it smaller because the foot is at a different distance, but it's not too much smaller. Okay, thigh again, because it's a dynamic pose, it's stretched out. Okay, so again, this sets us up, right? This is what our goal is going to be. Is going to be that right there. All right, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to come up here and we're going to start sketching. So this red line, once again, this red line represents what you are picturing in your head as you make your shapes, okay? So once you start sketching, again, you're going to look at your image and see those shapes. And again, stay nice and loose and sketch. You can erase out anything that you need. I'm going to turn our little face line down. Again, I have my neck here. Okay, I can start with my shoulder if I want. that out. I'm going to have to move this over so that I have space. So do that like right there. But again, on your paper, you should have plenty of space. Okay, so we have my bicep coming down around about the elbow, and that forearm comes out, and it meets the hand, just kind of making a little glove shape. Okay, and then we kind of coming across the body here, just to make our shape. Again, just stay nice and loose. And we can run our line down. Again, please understand, this is drawing with stick figures. This is not drawing the actual person you see on the screen. This is helping you learn to set up your sketches and things like that. This is how you would start. Okay, and then right here around the chest, we have a little bit of a forearm come out, and that comes into our fist right here. All right, then we come down, we make our little underwear shape. And we come out with our first thigh here, and kind of stretch it out, because same way it's stretched out. But see how the angle is going to make all the difference in the world, right? So if I come out a little bit more this way, tend to be more accurate. I put that kneecap in, and we have a little bit of our tibia or calf area that comes down. Okay, and then we have that same area here. I'm going to kind of stretch that back this way. If you look, the knees kind of run down, so you'll know kind of where to start. And then that will go back, and we get ourselves another foot shape right here. And if you hear a little weirdness in the audio compared to my other videos, for some reason my microphone does not like to work on the screen recording the same way that it does on like me recording if I was drawing in paper. So I do apologize. I haven't figured out what's up with that yet. Okay. So again, if we compare the old reference, turn that off, we're pretty close, right? We have some subtle differences, right? We can get that change to, where there's a slight curve in the back, right there. It's an easy fix. Okay. But at the end of the day, we're matching our reference. And again, the next step is to go in and add in the little shapes. Alright, so coming from our shoulders, now the forearms, get our bicep in. Again, just a basic structure. You go in and you add the details after this step. For this step, it's just learning a dynamic pose and how to set up for your characters. Okay, this is not a ending of you going and finding a way to complete an image. This is the beginning steps. These are things that you need to practice first in order to get better. Okay, and then once you start seeing things the way they are in real life, it'll become easier to draw. Okay, so you can see the last thing we need to do here is we stretch that neck down. Okay, so again, it gives us a basic foundation, right? It's not 100% accurate. It's not what's important. This is the beginning of the beginning. Okay, these are for all my beginners out there who are watching. If you're new to the channel, that's what this is for. I wasn't showing you how to draw him verbatim. I'm showing you how to practice. Okay, so again, don't come up in here thinking that, oh, this is terrible. No, this is the beginning point. It's the whole point of this. Okay, so I'm going to turn that reference off again. I'm going to open this one up, and I'm going to shrink this down. those separate. So let's do the red one first. And we'll shrink that down. Move that down here. Okay, and then I'm going to do one more. Alright. Okay, so those are two sketches you have on your paper, and we're going to do this last reference. Okay, now this one's got more dynamicism and foreshortening because the body is really tweaked and fashioned in a way that's complicated. Okay, so this is like your end goal result of what you want to try to get to. So you start with some basic stuff, then you want to get to this. So let's break this one down. We're going to come in here, and I'm going to start with the head. Okay, so we just get our basic head shape. Again, this part with the red is what you're imagining in your head. You're not actually drawing this right now. We're breaking down the shapes, okay? So if I want to, we can start with the body first. And then as we get over to the shoulder area, running that down to the elbow. And then we're taking that down to the hand. Okay, and then I can complete my body shape that way. Okay, again, I have my top shoulder here, which runs down to my elbow. So then runs down to the forearm, which again runs down to the hand. Okay, now here's the tricky part. Is where you got to start thinking the way the body twists and turns. So you're going to kind of look, what can I physically see? What can I actually see? Well, I can see a little bit of the buttocks down there, and then obviously I clearly see the thigh running down to a stretched out calf area, down to the foot, and then we have our thigh coming down to here and running back down to our foot that's over here. Okay, so again, we can complete the shapes if you want and run them all the way through. It's completely up to you. But that's the general idea. Okay, so again, this is what we're picturing in our head. And now we're going to actually draw what it is that we see. Okay, so again, we started with our head. So let's do that. Let's come on in here. We're just going to get a basic circle. You can shape the head if you want to. It's completely up to you. It's not 100% important because these are supposed to be quick sketches. They're not supposed to be, time consuming, where you're spending a lot of time working on trying to fix and adapt things. Alright, so I have that, which then runs down to the back here. And this kind of starts to run. So now I can put in my shoulder. Right, my shoulder bends down into my elbow, which then goes down to my forearm. Gives me a little bit of a thumb, right? And then again, I can kind of complete the shape if I want. You can also run a back line down here if you want to kind of get an idea. Okay. Oops, did not mean to pick that. Alright, so now we have our shape, and I can come and I can get my shoulder shape for this back side. Again, that kind of stretches out into the elbow. And then that goes down. Into the hand. Alright. Again, we want to kind of get that buttock shape right here, and that kind of turns around and goes towards the front, right in there, which then leads to my thigh that comes out and runs back this way to my foot, right? And then because I'm twisted in such a way, my leg will actually come out of the chest area. Again, it's not overly huge. Okay, so we have a basic shape drawn. We can come in here and again start filling in those muscles. Okay, bring our thigh out here. And because of the way it folds, it's actually going to pass over, and we're only going to see a little bit of the shin down there. And again, I can cross my bicep, and then what you would do is you would just erase the parts that should not be visible, right? Okay, and then I'm going to come in here with my forearm, and we'll come to the other side and hit up our shapes. And then the last thing we need is our neck. Okay, so again, we can look at the reference. Let's see how close we got. That's pretty close, pretty accurate to the shape of everything. But again, the key point to all of this is your beginning point. This is your starting point. You're learning how to break down your reference, and then you move on to like what I did in part one, where I'm not using a reference. You just do it out of your head, and once you get these down, these different poses, then comes the time to start adding muscle tissue and things like that. So if you're willing to put in the work, you're willing to put in the effort, I promise you, you will get better, but you have to. So your homework assignment for this week, if you're just joining the channel, you're trying to learn how to do this stuff, spend a week, spend a whole week just doing this. Look at a reference of different pictures. It takes, all of 30 seconds for each drawing, maybe a minute. Give yourself a minute. Be loose, be crazy with it. Don't worry about it. And then the next week, do it without. And I promise if you do it for a month, just keep practicing. Maybe try to add in some anatomy, and I promise you will get better. Okay? So that's going to do it for this drawing with stick figures part 2 using a reference. Again, this was a request from somebody who found the video and watched. I love doing tutorials upon request. So if you have a request for a video, please let me know down in the comments. If you're new to the channel and you like what you saw, check out the other videos and then maybe consider subscribing. I love having students and being able to teach. Leaving a comment really helps too, because it helps me guide the channel to what you want to see next. So let me know down in the comments what other videos you want me to make. Other than that, I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember to keep sketching, and I will see you in the next one. All right? Bye.